Hey folks, if you've been paying very close attention to this channel's lore, then you'll know that on December 26th of 2022, I was assassinated by the Church of Scientology for subversive activities. What can you do?
And subscribe to this channel, like this video, like every other video. If you don't, then you're a mean person and you hate the fans or something like that. And I will see you in the next one.
Don't worry, I didn't remember that either. What you may not know, however, is that behind the scenes I was rescued by an alternate universe version of myself, affectionately named Evil Malachi, on the condition that whenever asked I must allow Evil Malachi to post their evil takes to my YouTube channel. Hopefully, that's enough of a defense of what you're about to see. For what feels like years now, internet weirdos and leftist whack jobs have been loudly demanding that I watch Netflix's adaptation of Daredevil, and I shrugged them off for most of that time, given Netflix's track record of putting out woke garbage and telling straight white men that they need to change, and hundreds of reviews from bought and paid for critics didn't exactly help things along. But I finally got around to checking it out, if for no other reason than to troll the vocal minority of delusional idiots who think that this is good television. And I am happy to say Daredevil is yet another dumpster fire from the leftists at Disney and Netflix. Well, I shouldn't say I'm happy to say that. Obviously, I wanted to like this show. All I want from Hollywood is good, non-woke entertainment that doesn't just hate me for my race. But well, let's just say I wasn't surprised at what I saw. So let's tear this SJW nonsense to shreds today and settle once and for all Daredevil or Woke Devil. To start things off, I was already fairly cautious about yet another progressive disability story being shoved into my superhero media when all I really want is an escape from the real world. They already pushed that shit in Infinity War, and it pulled me right out of the movie. If you know, you know. But I was begrudgingly willing to give this show a shot since it's based on a character from the 60s, which of course is before all of this political indoctrination started appearing in our fandoms. And I was having a decent enough time for the first couple of episodes. I thought that they were introducing some good traditional Catholic themes, and while the fight choreography sucked ass...
You know, I think it just goes to show how far Marvel have fallen. Give me loads of money.
Wait! What? Let's see that again. Let's see that again, super fans, super patriot fans. Let's have a little look at this. That is cap. It's nothing but air. Clean sweep past bro's face, and he's rolling away, trying to sell us, trying to pass by this awful woke choreography.
It was nice to see a superhero saving children for once instead of indoctrinating them. But of course, all of that came crashing down once it became clear that they were actually subversively attempting to sneak feminist messages that have absolutely no place in our entertainment. In our first episode, our main characters, Matt Murdock and Foggy Nelson, who are both lawyers, take on a new client who's obviously been having an extramarital affair with her coworker. And I shit you not, the feminist writers were so offended that we called them Karens that they actually wrote a Mary Sue character named Karen. That's the level that we're operating on here. And I was willing to forgive it at first when I thought she was just going to appear in maybe 1 or 2 episodes and then be gone. I was even willing to excuse that they were promoting loose sexual morals with her character. I was willing to ignore Foggy's feminized haircut and general beta behavior, but I hope you can see the cracks were already starting to show. But no, they just had to keep a fantastic character like Karen around, and I cannot believe some of the things they tried to pull with this character. For starters, look at these two people. Tell me, which one of them do you think would win in a fight in real life? The fit adult man or the fucking blonde chick? Yeah, that's right. She beats him first try because this show has no respect for men or masculinity or even basic realism. They go out of their way to put her in a situation, put this woman in a situation where she can beat a man and have it be empowering and cool. It's Ghostbusters 2016 all over again. But they had to take it further than that. I mean, real Daredevil fans remember this iconic frame from Kevin Smith's Guardian Devil. Daredevil cradles some woman as she dies in his arms. Please don't look up her name. And it's a powerful, emotional scene that reminds our titular hero that women are to be protected and they should stay away from bad men, right? And yeah, I mean, you like that, right? Well, guess what? Netflix hates you. They recreate this frame in their show, but now Daredevil is being cradled by a literal Karen. No, men can't be on top in our shows these days. Now they have to find creative ways to shit all over the things the fans really care about because some tourists want to push the message. And lest you get your hopes up that maybe the rest of the show isn't an anti-straight white male mess, they made sure to throw in yet another pandering gay reference to virtue signal that they're hip with the LGBTQIXT community.
Never see me again.
Honey, what's going on?
There's only one name worth checking into.
But even after all of this, I was at least hopeful that they might get my favorite character right. Surely they didn't fuck up Ben Urich, right? One of the most important characters in Daredevil history. Well, here he is in the comics, not a bad-looking guy at all, and here he is in the show. Is it too much to ask for a character that was written in the 70s, has been beloved for decades, to not be ruined like this? I was already fuming by this point, so I was barely even paying attention to what this character was doing on screen, but even after I took a break and calmed down, broke a few things, I found out they didn't just ruin this character in terms of look, they ruined him in every possible way. In classic Daredevil, by which of course I mean the one comic I've read, Ben Urich is a somewhat cowardly character who needs a bit of encouragement to do the right thing, and I'm sure that if they kept him a white guy, that's exactly how he would have been. But of course, in this version, he's a perfect Mary Sue, Gary Stu that always does the right thing, while other characters congratulate him for being so stunning and brave. But lest you still want to try and play defense for this garbage, don't worry, I brought data. Let's take a look at the villains in this show, shall we? Now, let's take a look at all of the characters that we're supposed to root for. It's kind of convenient, don't you think, that every single villain here is a straight white man? And don't you worry, several of these straight white men are defeated not by Daredevil, no, but by random minorities, obviously. The Kingpin, who should be a strong, masculine figure, gets, I'm not even joking when I say this, an entire subplot about how he's being raised with abuse and toxic masculinity, and then we get to watch him grovel before an elderly Chinese woman with completely ridiculous superpowers, and Daredevil doesn't even get to defeat him until some made-up Pakistani character says. And with that, I think that my contractually obligated time is up. Wasn't that something? Pretty much every point that I just made there is almost directly ripped from an actual piece of anti-woke content that I have seen. For example, Ben Shapiro's review of The Batman, where he whines about how all of the bad guys are white people and all of the good guys are brown people, conveniently ignoring the main character of the movie. But regardless, the broader point of making a video like this is kind of just to demonstrate the ways that a narrative like this can be crafted from thin air. I mean, almost everything that I said is flat out just true. Daredevil really did race swap Ben Urich, gender swap the Guardian Devil comic, and contain moments that could easily be read by the worst type of guy as LGBT pandering. Hell, it didn't take very long for me to find an 8-year-old post complaining about how Karen is an overpowered character / Mary Sue, which is pretty much just the term for girl boss in the 2010s if you just entered the internet today. But Daredevil, unlike many other vaguely progressive stories, has managed to largely avoid this kind of scrutiny. And the reason for Daredevil's success in this space is definitely multifaceted. I mean, part of the reason is that a lot of the prejudiced backlash hadn't fully crystallized in 2015. I mean, it was big, not to don't get me wrong on that, but it was still generally seen as embarrassing, whereas now people are much prouder to wear that on their chest. And another just major reason is that Daredevil is unassailably good. Much like, Baldur's Gate, Everything Everywhere All at Once, Breaking Bad, Gravity Falls, Andor, Ex Machina, because I really like that movie and I want people to talk about it more, X-Men 97, Severance, etc., etc. That was a hell of a list there. Daredevil is a show with both explicit and aesthetic progressive content that almost no viewer who at least likes the genre can find themselves disliking. I'm vaguely in the process of working on a video that will elaborate on this a little bit further, so I'm not quite ready to lay out my thoughts entirely here, but hopefully you see the point at least a little bit. So-called wokeness is everywhere. And I mean, I know that you know that, but I feel like I need you to realize that when I say it's everywhere, I mean, it is literally fucking everywhere. Right-wing channels that post 9 times a day about how the new Star Wars has an unapproved black person in it are selectively deciding which specific wokeness they're going to talk about to maintain their narrative. And don't get me wrong, like, it's a great grift. If you list 15 good movies and 15 bad movies and only point out the progressive elements in the bad movies, you can very easily craft an audience full of people who believe that progressivism is the cause of movie badness. My hope for anybody who's watched this far is that I've given you another semi-solid counterexample when the people who make the age-old woke broke claims, like when somebody tells you that Marvel was good before the feminism and the race swapping came in, you'll be able to remind them that the exact same complaints that they're making about whatever the current problem is apply to what is arguably the best thing that Marvel has put to screen. And if you've watched this content before and you found it convincing, I hope that you've at least been given like something to think about how just incredibly easy it is to make one of these videos. Was DEI feminism the reason you didn't like Captain America 4? Or perhaps was there something else pertinent to the film's quality going on there? Is it true that so-called woke productions are destined to become broke productions? Or could it be the case that almost every film and show that I like from the last 2 decades contains progressive messaging and ideas, and that those ideas have very little bearing on how much I will actually like or dislike the project? I also hope that you'll consider checking out the first couple chapters of my sci-fi novel, The Empath, in the comments. Yeah, that's right, I haven't forgot about this. Why would I have forgotten about this? Personally, I think it'd be pretty cool of you. In any event, I'm bad at ending videos. I do plan to talk further on Daredevil at some point soon. I have a lot of opinions, both good and bad, about the Born Again revival, so expect to hear about them at some point, probably in the next, I don't know, 2 weeks to a month. Thank you for watching. I'll see you tonight.